Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is I, your host, Mr. Sean, and we are back with part 3 of 30 Years a Virgin, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Be a Wizard. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2, well, why are you here? Why would you do that? But hey, if you haven't and you don't want to, links will be in the description because I highly suggest you do, but I'm rambling again. That's going to happen a lot in this video. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, what this video is me talking using my experience as a wizard, which if you haven't seen the other 2 videos, what that means, according to the internet, is I was 30 years old before I lost my virginity. So I am using my experience as a wizard to try and bring some positivity to those who might be struggling with their inability to get laid. What we don't want is we don't want people to join the incel community, which, if you don't know, stands for involuntary celibate, because there is a difference between a virgin who just can't seem to get laid and someone who identifies as an incel. It is a community of hate, intolerance, misogyny, and you don't want to fall down that rabbit hole. I was fortunate enough that I had never even heard of an incel until I had already lost my V-card, but it could have been so easy to fall into that community, that echo chamber, and just lose any hope I ever had of being a decent person, and quite honestly, of ever getting laid. So, this is my video where we're kind of using talking points. This is part 3. By the way, go back, watch part 1, part 2, while I ramble. But this is my video to bring a positive aspect on how you can enjoy your time as a virgin leading up to your ascension into wizardry, or just until you happen to get laid, and you don't have to be an incel. You don't have to be one of them. And that's the point of these videos. So, without further ado, let's get into today's video by reviewing what we talked about in the previous 2 videos. Of course, number 1 is to live your life. Don't worry so much about getting laid. Just live your life, meet people, form connections, and one day it will happen. Just live your life. Number 2, the friend zone doesn't exist. You can never have too many friends, and if you think that someone has friend zoned you, that's not a friend zoning. That's because there's not a spark, and if there's not a spark, it doesn't matter how much you have in common. There's no reason for you two to bang. My sister recently asked me some advice about this guy that's been asking her out. She went on one date with him, and they have a lot in common, but she just didn't feel the spark. And she's like, I feel like I should like this guy because we have so much in common. And I just told her, look, if there's no spark, there's no spark. It doesn't matter how much you have in common. Don't lead him on. Just, you're not interested. If you wanted to be friends, that would be fine, but clearly he wants to be more than that, and you're just not feeling it. And also notice that if you think you've been friend zoned, what you've actually done is sex zoned a friend, and that sucks. Don't do that. Point number 3 is to find hobbies, because it is your interests that make you interesting. Don't be that guy that's just always trying to get laid. Be the guy that's really into building model airplanes and also seems to really want to get laid. Give yourself some layers. Alright, onion boys, and now it's time for point number 4, which is to stop trying so hard. If you're desperate to get laid and that's the motivation for everything you do, people can smell it on you. They can smell that onion level of desperation, and just don't do it. Just live your life, have some hobbies, meet some people. It'll happen for you, but don't try and make it happen. That's just not gonna work. Go to bars to try and meet interesting people, not to try and stick your dick in something. Point number 5, no one cares if you're getting laid or not, because they just don't. The only person that cares whether or not you're getting laid is you, so, don't think that people are judging you for being a virgin. They really don't care. Point number 6 is find someone who shares your interests. I mean, at this point, if you're pushing 30 and you haven't gotten laid, or you are 30 and you haven't gotten laid, there's a good chance that sex means more to you than just a casual fling with some rando. So you're going to want to have a connection with somebody, and that is a great way to form a connection, is with someone who shares some of your interests. Again, this doesn't guarantee that you two are going to bang, but it don't hurt. But remember, point number 6, it's important to don't try and manufacture common interests, because if that commonality is based on a lie, or you just trying to find a way that you're similar, that's not a real connection. That's just desperation. And point number 8, the ultimate secret, it's not all looks or all personality. People will say that people say looks don't matter. Nobody really says that, but, they'll also say that girls like a guy with a good personality. Yeah, everybody likes a guy with a good personality. Everybody likes someone with a good personality. But the thing is that there's more to it than personality, because they are going to have to be able to look at you and be physically attracted to you. Now, your personality can be what does that, but, again, the first thing we do is we see with our eyes. Light travels faster than sound, so you could have the best personality in the world, but if you're not the kind of person that they would be physically attracted to ever, it's just not going to work out. You're not going to wear them down. Likewise, if you are a really good-looking person, but nobody can stand to be around you long enough to get into the bedroom, yeah, you're not going to get laid. So it's not looks, it's not personality, it's a combination. Also, just a little add-on, not smelling terrible also helps. If people's noses can't stand to be near you, well, their genitals aren't going to be anywhere near you either. And those were the 8 simple points that took me basically an hour to get through over the last 2 videos. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So guys, before I officially get into point number 9, I'm going to ramble here for a second about what I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to present this information. I'm not trying to sound like a big brain here, all right? I am kind of a smooth brain, but I have enough common knowledge, I guess, common sense to be able to present this to you. And I want to do this as simply as possible. And there are two things I think of when I think about why I want to do this way. And it's because my first one is, if you've ever seen the musical Six, which is about the 6 wives of Henry VIII, there's a line in it where Anne Boleyn says that, basically says that just for her, King Henry started the Church of England just so he could marry her because, yes, she's that hot. And while that is such a big oversimplification of history, when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, he wanted to legally, in the eyes of God, bang this girl so hard he founded Protestantism. We only have paintings of Anne Boleyn to go off of, but damn, she must have been a smoke show. And the second comes from a D&D stream I've been watching on Dropout with Brennan Lee Mulligan, and he's giving them the backstory of Jack and the Beanstalk and basically describes it as a man breaking into a house and killing the homeowner so he can steal their stuff. And it's like, when you really get down to its bare bones, that is the plot of Jack and the Beanstalk. None of those items Jack got belonged to him, and he ended up killing the rightful owner just because apparently giant lives don't matter. And yes, while those are 2 very funny instances, it's like, I don't want you to be confused by what I'm saying. As much as I am drinking and rambling while I say it, I want you to understand that this is coming from a place of somebody who has been where you are, if you are struggling through this at the moment, and I'm letting you know it's going to be okay. And I want to say that in the simplest terms possible, give you this advice as simply as I can so that it can help you. That is what the point of these videos are to help. So, talking point number 9 is in of itself about talking, and that is talk about anything else. Anything else other than how much you want to have sex, alright? Don't be that guy that at any time you walk up to a woman or a group of people, you're always making the sex joke. You're always talking about the size of some girl's boobs. I mean, look, we all noticed the girl with the big rack, alright? Who doesn't love a big rack? But you don't make don't be Glenn Quagmire. Don't be the guy who your entire personality is that you're a horn dog. Why? Because being that turned on all the time is a turn off to other people. You don't want to be Randy Ronnie. You don't want to be Horny Harold. You don't want to be the guy that the first thing people think about you when they think about you is how fucking down bad you are for some pussy, because that means anytime you might be able to form a connection with somebody, they're just going to think, whether you're genuinely interested in them as a person or not, they're always going to think that you are just imagining slipping your dick into them. And that is not what you want. That's not going to get you laid. That's not going to help you form connections with people. Platonic, romantic, whatever. If people are just worried that the only reason you're talking to them is that you are horny, it's never going to work. So, find things to talk about that have nothing to do with sex. Not the end of every conversation or talking point needs to end with "that's what she said." All right. So again, part of finding interests is you're going to have other things to talk about. So talk about those things. Don't talk about sex all the time. Talking point number 10 is don't be selfish. Learn to empathize. So the thing is that a lot of people, especially in the incel, people who eventually end up in the incel community, have spent a lot of time isolated. And when you spend a lot of time isolated with your own thoughts, you, start to think of yourself kind of as a main character, and you start to think you're better than everybody else. And that is not good. So let's put this into a hypothetical. Let's say you managed to get yourself into a relationship. You haven't had sex yet because, hey, that comes with time. Okay, it didn't when I had gotten to my current relationship. Literally having sex was the first thing we did when we agreed to start dating, but that's a weird case. That's not what's going to happen normally. Like, I lucked out, all right? My magical wizard luck powers really kicked in, and literally we fucked before we went on our first date. And now I'm marrying that woman, so you know what? It worked out for me, but don't expect that to be the way things goes. So back to the point, again, whiskey ramblings. You're in a relationship. You're really hoping that, you've been in it for maybe a month now, and you haven't had sex yet, but you're really hoping it's going to happen. Well, in that time, have you been empathetic to them? Have you just, it's everything about you? People do this without even realizing it. They become so caught up on what they want and what they think they need, and they completely ignore what the people around them need. And you know what that does? That might as well put up a barrier to the lady parts, because if that your partner thinks you don't care about what they want, and that all you care about is what you want and getting to have sex with them, they're not going to think of themselves as your partner. They're going to think of themselves as someone you see as some kind of sex toy. And nobody wants to be a sex toy. I mean, okay, there might be somebody out there with a fetish, and if you happen to find one that their kink is you disregarding their needs and just using them physically, hey, if that's your thing, that's your thing, but that's not common. The idea is being in a relationship means you are in that relationship. You are a partner, not someone. You don't expect your partner to be at your beck and call. Don't expect them to, only care about what's bothering you. You need to care about them. And if you don't, then you are one, not in the right relationship. And two, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, can I empathize? Can I be unselfish? And if your answer is no, then the only way you should ever try to get laid is through a financial transaction with a prostitute. Because if you can't be a partner, if you can't be there in the emotional times, you don't deserve to be there in the physical times. They can find somebody who can not only make them come, but also make them feel appreciated. And if that's not you, don't bother them. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. When I got into my current relationship, I was not a very empathetic person, but I realized that I cared about my partner. And as much as it didn't come naturally to me, and that's what I hear a lot of people saying, well, I'm just not an empathetic person. Hey, neither was I. But I learned. You can learn to empathize. You can learn to sympathize. You're not a psychopath. At least I hope you're not. And once it can be easy to get into this negative, self-important area when you've literally been alone your entire life. But once you're no longer alone, you have to adapt accordingly. You have to start caring about other people. When it's just you, it's fine to only care about yourself. But as soon as there are other people, you got to adjust. And if you can't adapt, well, you're going to die alone. But here's the thing. Point number 11. It is okay to fail. Just because you finally got into a relationship, 1, it doesn't mean that relationship is going to last. 2, it doesn't mean that this is the relationship that you're going to get laid. I've only dated 3 people in my entire life. I'll be perfectly honest with that. My first girlfriend, I dated for 9 months. Apparently, she decided she didn't want to be in a relationship after 1 month, but didn't bother telling me for another 8 months. Looking back, it made me feel like a creep, but I was never going to get laid in that relationship. Why? She wasn't a very physical person to begin with, and when she didn't even really want to be in that relationship, there was no way that was going to happen. Didn't know that at the time, but again, my second relationship, I went on 3 dates with a girl, and then I found out she had kids, and then just due to circumstances, we were never able to go on another date for an entire month. I really wasn't certain about being with someone who had kids, but then I got a message from her saying, hey, I've decided to try and make things work with the father of my children. That's not what ended up happening, apparently, I found out later, but that's a whole nother weird story that I don't have all the answers to as much as I would want them, because it's a very interesting story. We might talk about that in a different video, but hey, that relationship did not have time to grow enough to ever even think about sex being a thing, and now I'm in my current one, and that is a sexual relationship. But hey, you know what? I failed twice. Most people fail way more times than that. Most people don't get the third time's a charm like I did. But again, lucky wizard powers. So, you've battled through your loneliness. You've met somebody. You've made a connection. And you're like, cool, I'm on cloud 9. You've Ted Mosby'd it and decided this is going to be your future wife. And then, boom, it ends. And you're feeling low. You feel like a failure. Here's the thing. You didn't fail. All right? You tried. You didn't succeed, but you didn't fail. Well, you did fail. I'm sorry. Failure is okay, though. It's okay to fail. just because this didn't work out does not in any way mean that the next one won't. There are so many people in this world, so many different kinds of people, but the more you try, the more you succeed, and the more you fail, the more you learn. And that's important. Don't look at failure as a setback. Look at it as something take what you've learned and apply that to next time. Failure is fine. Failure is a part of life. And here's the thing, you can do everything right and still fail. Sometimes failure is caused by forces outside of yourself. So when you fail in a relationship, you need to examine it, and you need to come up with an accurate assessment of why it failed. Because maybe it was you. Maybe you weren't able to be the person you needed to be yet, but you will get there. Or maybe it was on the other person. Maybe you were feeling it. Maybe you were trying to be the best person in the world you could be for them, but you just weren't what they wanted. And that's okay. Not everybody's going to want you, just like you're not going to want everybody. I remember, it's a little off topic, but it kind of fits in. In Ultimate X-Men, they turned the character Colossus gay. And when he came out, his best friend, Nightcrawler, got a little weirded out. And one time they're talking, and Colossus is like, hey man, why don't we hang out anymore? He's like, I don't know, man. It's just knowing what you're into and wondering if you feel that way about me. He's like, what? You're not my type. He's like, really? But I thought, he's like, what? You thought that literally gay guys are attracted to every man they see? And he's like, well, yeah. But he's like, dude, are you attracted to literally every girl you meet? And Nightcrawler just kind of goes, whoa. Dude, I am so sorry. He's like, it's okay, man. We good? We good. They fist bump. They're friends again. It's great. Not everybody is perfect for everybody. Like, just because someone is right for you doesn't mean you're right for them, and learn from that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so back to the drawing board. Find someone who you are their type and they're yours. I guarantee you they're out there somewhere. So it's okay to fail. All right, and this part number 12, because we are chugging right along. I think we might actually be chugging along fast enough that this will be the final video in this series. Point number 12 is hate, don't mate. And what that means is that if you are hateful, you are not going to get laid, all right? All these incels on their forums talking about the foids and the females and just calling them toilets, just the hate spewing from these people that just feel like somehow the world is against them because they can't get laid. I tell you what, those people are never getting laid, at least not consensually. Because why? Because if you are so filled with hate, you ain't ever gonna mate. And people there's a show called The Big Sick where the girl from Precious is kind of being an ass to everybody in summer school, and the teacher goes, you know what? You need to either you need to not be such a bitch. And she's like, what? She's like, look, you're fat, and fat repulses people. So you can't be fat and a bitch, because fat people are supposed to be jolly. Fat repulses people, joy brings them in. You have two choices. You can be fat and jolly or a skinny bitch. It's your choice. And that's the thing, is nobody really wants to be around, that's not even a point about physical appearance, but hate repulses people. Nobody wants to be around the guy who's angry at the world. There was a point in my life when I was the guy who was angry at the world. You know what happened? My friends didn't want to hang out with me anymore. And I don't fucking blame them, because why would they? So you know what? If you really want to get laid, be a positive individual. Be a force for good, for positivity, for joy in the world. If people enjoy being around you, if your presence brings them joy, they will want to be around you. Hell, they're going to want to have other people meet you. And the more people you meet, the more you live your life, the better chances are that you're going to meet someone that's like, hey, I'd sleep with that guy. But if you're the hateful SOB that everyone is just like, oh yeah, old miserly virgin over there, you ain't ever getting laid. So hate, don't mate. And I'm not entirely sure I used the right cadence and emphasis on that word. So what I'm trying to say is that if you hate, you're not going to mate. I'm not suggesting that you should hate instead of trying to mate. No, it's that if you hate, you ain't gonna mate. And guys, I've actually managed to hold it together long enough today that we are at the final talking point, and we're only at a little over 20 minutes. And that is the most important rule when you are trying to get laid as a person who has been a virgin a lot longer than others. Talking point number 13 is just don't be weird. Now, that's not to say that you're not allowed to be weird, be nerdy, but like in a good way, but don't be that weird, horny guy that's like, that gets way too close to women, breathes too heavily. Don't stare at the girl that you're into from across the room for extended periods of time. Like, just be a normal fucking person, alright? Doesn't matter what you're into, it doesn't matter what your hobbies are. Don't be the guy that comes up to girls that you've just met and ask them if they like hentai, or don't make your intro line be, hey, what's your favorite sex position, or as what one girl I used to work with apparently loved to like walk up to people and introduce with, hi, what's your favorite medieval torture device? Like, I'm sorry, but there is no normal anymore, but there is normal within the confines of appropriate social interaction, and just try and live within that as you're out there trying to meet people. Yeah, don't be the weird, creepy guy that everyone warns, like whenever a new girl comes into the office, like, oh, watch out for creepy Jeff over there. No, be pretty much normal. Make the occasional sex joke, and just convey to the people around you that there is more to you than just a raging hard-on waiting to be satiated. Because if people can get along with your normal side, they might let you see their weird side. I'm just saying, there are things I learned about people the closer I got to them that I would never have known had I, not been able to be normal in public. Then behind closed doors, you realize that some people are kind of a freak. And I don't even mean that in a sexual way, but like, let people get to know people on a platonic, normal, work-appropriate level first, and then you guys can let your freak flags fly. Like, there are friends of mine that I learned they are into things that they never would have opened up to me about that kind of stuff had I been the creepy guy that made them uncomfortable. So, final big thing, while you're living your life, while you're having your hobbies, while you're meeting people, while you're being a source of joy in this world, just remember to not be too weird. We'll say this one's don't be too weird. And guys, that is the video. That is the series. That is all the advice I have to give to those of you who might be struggling to get laid, who are fast approaching that earmark where you will officially become a wizard like I am. And I'm just here to say, man, that whether or not you actually make it to 30, whether or not you actually become a quote-unquote internet wizard, I wish you the best of luck. I wish you happiness, because you deserve happiness. You deserve to feel like you are a part of this world. You deserve to enjoy sexual intercourse with someone who enjoys that sexual intercourse with you. But ultimately, whether you get laid or you stay a virgin, you deserve to be happy. And I just want to emphasize that if you identify as an incel, if you join their revelry of hatred, if you go into their echo chambers looking to raise yourself up, you will only sink down into an abyss. As someone who fortunately never got into that community, I'm here to say there is hope, there is happiness, and there is a chance. It is never hopeless. There's always someone out there for you. You just have to exist in this world long enough and normally enough to find them. Guys, if you enjoyed this video and this series, and I so hope you did, please like, comment, subscribe. We're still trying to get those final subscribers to get up to 50 subscribers before the end of the month. But hey, whether or not you do, and I really hope you do, I believe in you. I'm here for you, and I hope to see you again on the channel. For all of those out there, thank you for your time. I'm Mr. Sean, and I hope you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye.